So guys, it's official. Not only have we got Robert the Ghost Guerrero versus Keith one-time Thurman, not only have we got a tremendous matchup, but we've also got Keith Thurman getting tested, and we've also got Robert the Ghost Guerrero back in the ring. We haven't seen much of Robert Guerrero since his loss to Mayweather. He had a lopsided win against Kamagai. Yes, he won the fight, but he wasn't the Robert Guerrero of old. He was more brawling, more inside fighting, taking shots, giving shots. Keith one-time Thurman, coming off a not such a spectacular win against Leonard Bundu. A lot of people expected Keith one-time Thurman to wipe him out, but my argument is that arguably Keith one-time Thurman dominated Leonard Bundu in terms of boxing. However, I understand that people are going to say that Keith Thurman was constant on the back foot. But we take a look at Robert the Ghost Guerrero and his fight against Kamagai, because you're only as good as your last fight. They say Robert Guerrero looked like he had something to prove in the fight, that he doesn't take a back step, that he's a come forward fighter, because he had a lot to prove in terms of the Mayweather fight. Because a lot of people Robert the Ghost Guerrero kept saying that his excuse why he lost the Mayweather fight was that Floyd Mayweather ran. But this is boxing, you have to adjust to the tactics of your fighter. Now, before we discuss the style matchup and how these two will actually do against each other, let's take a look at these both records in the past. I mean, Robert Guerrero, who's he really beat? Andre Berto, okay, good win, solid win. He's gone up against Mayweather. He showed his severe limitations against a boxer. Other than that, he's beaten Kamagai, and he's beaten a few good fighters along the way, but no one really of significant note. But he is a multi-weight division champion, so you have to give him credit on that. But then when you take a look at this multi-weight division champion thing, you have to also take into account that Robert Guerrero is not the established 147-pound fighter here. It is Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman is a more filled out 147-pounder. If you take a look at Keith Thurman's physique, he's got more muscle than fat. His body fat is actually quite low. Whereas Robert Guerrero, he's carrying his 147-pound weight with quite a bit of body fat. I mean, if he lost that body fat, I don't think he'd be weighing in at 147. I think he could be weighing in maybe at 143, 142, 144, and he could make 140, but maybe he might have to kill off a bit of muscle in terms of cardiovascular, burn that muscle off to get down to 140. But I truly think that out of the two, the 147 fighter is Keith one-time Thurman, which brings us on to Keith Thurman's record. He hasn't stepped up in competition, but he has fought Julio Diaz, and who you've got to remember, Julio Diaz was coming off a draw/win against Sean Porter, and then he had a rematch with Sean Porter, and arguably the rematch he lost convincingly to Sean Porter. Sean Porter won that fight, but he said, Julio Diaz didn't get wiped out of the water totally, if I remember correctly. And also Julio Diaz faced Amir Khan, dropped Amir Khan in the 4th round, and he came on late and hit Amir with multiple shots. Showed how that he is a veteran and he knows how to make adjustments and whatnot. And he was catching Amir and almost dropped Amir later on in the fight and potentially could have stopped Amir. And that's Amir Khan, who's ranked really highly at 147 at the moment. So and you got to consider the Sean Porter fight, because Sean Porter is no bum either. He's only lost to Kell Brook, just one fight. Sean Porter will be back. So Keith Thurman beat Julio Diaz, but in the fashion that he beat Julio Diaz, now that's, it is what it is. Julio Diaz, people felt like he gave up, but Julio Diaz never really done that before, so you can't say that. Keith Thurman did make him take a knee in the fight. Keith Thurman did show his power. Other than the Julio Diaz fight, other than the Leonard Bundu fight, we've got Jesus Soto Caras, the best gatekeeper, seriously, one of the best gatekeepers that there is. A difficult guy to beat, who was on a winning streak. He had beaten Berto, and he put up a good fight against Maidana as well. And Soto Caras, he was looking good recently. He wasn't looking rubbish. And Keith Thurman demolished Soto Caras better than, in my opinion, Devin Alexander. So, apart from the Leonard Bundu fight, in my opinion, Keith Thurman's done well against the fighters that he's been put up against. But now, when you match up the two, who stands a better chance stylistically? Now, I'm not going to predict, because I don't do predictions until the week of the fight normally. You know what? I'm going to do a prediction here. I'm going to say Keith Thurman is going to annihilate Robert Guerrero. That's my opinion, because I think stylistically Robert Guerrero gets hit. Robert Guerrero does not have a tremendous defense. Robert Guerrero has a good chin, but you can hurt him. we saw Mayweather hurt him. Now, Kamagai didn't hurt him, but you got to remember in boxing, it's not always the hardest punch that knocks you out. It's the punch you don't see coming. So if you can hit the guy with speed, with the pop of a punch, boom, it wobbled him. And I think Keith Thurman can do that, because Keith Thurman, believe it or not, is similar to Mayweather in certain aspects. Okay, and he's similar to Mayweather in the aspect that matters. Keith Thurman is predominantly a back foot fighter. Whether he likes to believe this or not, he fights on the back foot. And when he goes up against Robert Guerrero, he might go in with the game plan to go on the front foot and go into a bit of a war. But he'll be better off if he does what he's been working on recently, which is being a solid, hard back foot fighter. And I think that Keith Thurman needs to work on this in the Robert Guerrero fight, where sometimes he pushes the attack forward, but sometimes he's on the move backwards, because Thurman's footwork is a lot faster and better than Robert Guerrero's. And I think Robert Guerrero is going to struggle with the movement of Keith Thurman if Thurman chooses to use it. If Keith Thurman is stupid, which I don't believe he is, I think he's a very smart fighter, but if he's stupid and he doesn't use his footwork and uses his intangibles, which he can use to his advantage, if he doesn't use them intangibles, then what's the point? You know what I mean? You're not gonna have advantage in the fight. You're gonna go into a toe-to-toe war, and that's what Robert Guerrero wants, and that's where Robert Guerrero's chance is. Because if Thurman's on the back foot, landing power shots, yeah, they're not gonna be as hard, but they are gonna be hurting Robert Guerrero. When he hurts Guerrero, if he then goes on the front foot, he could take Guerrero out. And I know Robert Guerrero's got a good chin, but I truly think Thurman can just smash him, like really hurt him. If Kamagai did that to his face, you got to think what Thurman can do. And Thurman has got power, and Guerrero isn't Len Bundu in terms of defense. He's a different style fighter. He comes, he mauls, he's a brawler. That's what he is. He's a solid, rough brawler. But Guerrero can box. The old Guerrero can box, but we haven't seen that from Guerrero in a very long time. We haven't seen it. Do I think Guerrero can outbox Thurman? No, I don't think he can outbox Keith. I think Keith Thurman's the better boxer out of the two. I think he's got more power than the two. But Guerrero has the chin. Thurman, in my opinion, where he lacks, and I'm not saying he's got a glass chin. Thurman's my boy, but I think that Thurman doesn't have a better chin than Guerrero. Let's just say that much. I don't think he's going to disappear with one shot, but Thurman tends to get hurt. And what keeps him there and alive is his power, because his power keeps the fighters at bay, and his footwork. This is what I'm saying. It's coming down to this: who's going to move forward, who's going to move back. Because whoever moves, Robert Guerrero's going to come forward. We know that, right? But it's up to Keith Thurman. I think this fight is going to be won or lost by Keith Thurman, because Robert Guerrero, he holds, he bangs. If Keith Thurman chooses to fight on the inside and try and come forward, Robert Guerrero isn't going to take a back step, and Thurman is going to give the advantage to Robert Guerrero, because I think Robert Guerrero is a better inside fighter than Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman is the better boxer. He's got the better footwork. If he uses them intangibles, he can easily win this fight. He can outbox Robert Guerrero and hurt Guerrero at times with, now and again, just sneak in a good power punch. That's what Thurman needs to do, but I don't think Thurman's going to do that. I think after the criticism he received in his last fight, he could potentially try and go forward and make it a really rough fight. And he doesn't need to do that, because when he goes toe-to-toe with Guerrero, I think Guerrero can drop Thurman. I truly believe Guerrero can drop Thurman. I think if Thurman wants to drop Guerrero, he has to go on the back foot. Yeah, it's not going to be as much power, but sneak in a few power punches here and there. Hurt Guerrero like that. Keep your chin tucked. Keep yourself safe. Use your footwork. And then when you do hurt Guerrero, go for him. If not, just outbox him. And I think that's the key to victory for Keith Thurman. I really feel he needs to use his footwork. Robert the Ghost Guerrero, a badass fighter. He's just rough. He's rough. And he's going to go forward. He's not taking no back steps. And he's gonna try and push the action. So I think overall this is a really action-packed fight. It's really good. It's gonna be on CBS. All of them, so many Americans are gonna get to watch this fight. It's really gonna put boxing on the map. This fight definitely, I think it's gonna be a real war, because I don't think Thurman is gonna go on the back foot. But like I said, if Thurman goes on the front foot, chooses not to use his footwork and try and prove something to his fans and himself, you're going to see a toe-to-toe war, which I think Robert Guerrero will get the best of. But, I'm not, this is not my final prediction. This is not meant to be a prediction video. It's giving you different options, what could happen. I will make my final 100% prediction. But at this moment in time, I'm leaning towards Keith Thurman. I think overall, he'll do the right thing. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments in the section below. Make sure you subscribe as always. What do you guys think? Who do you think wins the fight? What do you think the keys to victory are? Do you think it's competitive? Do you think it's good for boxing? I think it's brilliant. Excellent matchup. Let me know what you guys think in a bit.